I want you to sit with me for a moment, not as a student reading about markets in a textbook, not as someone scanning headlines or watching ticker symbols flash across a screen. I want you to sit with me the way I used to sit alone in my office on Exchange Place after the noise of the trading floor had gone quiet, after the boys had gone home, after the last trade of the day had been settled. I want you to hear what nobody ever told me, what I had to learn the hard way, through ruin, through triumph, through ruin again. Because the most dangerous place a trader can stand is not in the middle of a losing streak. It is on the other side of 10 consecutive winning trades. That is where the real test begins. That is where most men, smart men, disciplined men, men who worked harder than most, collapsed without ever understanding why. Before I explain that, I need you to do something. If you haven't already watched our earlier videos on this channel, particularly the ones on reading the tape, on the psychology of sitting still, and on why most traders confuse activity with progress, go watch those first. The link is in the description. This conversation will mean far more to you once that foundation is laid. Everything I say here is built on what came before. Markets are not isolated events, neither is your education as a trader. Now, let me tell you what happens after 10 winning trades. And I do not mean 10 lucky trades. I mean 10 trades where you read the market correctly, where you waited with patience, where you entered at the right moment, sized your position with intelligence, and exited with discipline. 10 trades where everything you believe about your methodology was confirmed by the market itself. 10 trades where the numbers on the page validated every instinct, every hour of study, every sacrifice you made to understand this business. What happens after that? The mind changes. And most of the time, it changes in ways the trader does not notice until it is far too late. I will tell you exactly what changed in me. After my first great run, when I had turned a small stake into something that made men twice my age look at me differently, I felt something shift. It was subtle. It was not arrogance in the loud, obvious way. It was quieter than that. It was a kind of certainty that settled into my chest like a stone, a feeling that I had now figured something out that the market owed me, that I had earned the right to be right, that the rules, the ones I had written for myself, the ones carved into my discipline through years of hard lessons, were now more like suggestions. Because surely a man who had just won 10 times in a row had moved beyond the need for such rigid boundaries. That is the lie. That is the most seductive, most destructive lie the market ever whispers to a winning trader, and it whispers it in your own voice, which is why you believe it so completely. Here is what I need you to understand about consistency in this business. 10 winning trades do not mean you have mastered the market. The market cannot be mastered. What 10 winning trades mean, if they were executed properly, is that you have successfully aligned yourself with the market's current condition. It means your methodology was suited to that particular environment. It means your discipline held long enough for the market to reward you. That is significant. That deserves recognition, but it does not change the fundamental nature of what you are dealing with. The market is not a relationship that rewards loyalty. It is not an institution that honors tenure. It does not remember what you have done for it. The moment you step into a new trade, you begin again at zero. I cannot stress this enough. And if you want to go deeper on this concept of starting fresh with every trade, we have an entire video on the channel about what I called the clean slate principle. Go watch it after this. The link is in the description. Because what I am about to tell you in this next section is going to require you to understand that principle at a bone-deep level. Also, before we go further, I want to tell you about something we created specifically for traders who are serious about doing this work properly. We have an ebook available called Thinking Like Jesse Livermore, Mastering the Market with Discipline, Patience, and Risk. The link is in the description of this video. That book is not a collection of trading tips. It is a framework for how to think, how to train your mind to operate with the kind of cold, patient clarity that this business demands. And there is a second book alongside it, the Livermore Journal, a 90-day trading psychology workbook. 90 days of structured reflection, prompts, and psychological exercises designed to build the inner architecture that separates the men who last in this business from the men who do not. Both links are in the description. Get them. Use them. They will change how you see yourself as a trader. Now let me continue. Because we are just getting started, and what comes next is the part that most traders never hear. After 10 winning trades, the first thing that changes is not your strategy. It is your relationship with uncertainty. And this is where everything begins to unravel, slowly and then all at once, for the trader who is not watching carefully. When you first begin in this business, Kurai, when you are still learning, still humble, still carrying the memory of your last painful loss fresh in your chest, you have a natural respect for uncertainty. You know you might be wrong, you account for it. You build it into your position sizing. You place your stop with the reverence of a man who has been burned before. You do not overtrade because you are not yet sure enough of yourself to take unnecessary risk. That humility is not weakness. It is the single greatest asset a new trader possesses, and tragically, it is the first thing that gets stripped away by success. After 10 winning trades, uncertainty starts to feel like an insult. The mind begins to reframe it. Instead of saying, "I might be wrong about this trade," you begin to say, "I have been right 10 times. The odds are in my favor." But that is not how probability works. That is not how markets work. Each trade is its own event. The market does not keep a running tally of your recent performance and decide to reward your streak. The man who has won 10 times in a row has exactly the same statistical exposure on his 11th trade as the man entering his first trade of the month. The difference is psychological. And psychology, in the end, is everything. I learned this in 1906. I learned it again in 1907 after my greatest triumph. I learned it in 1929, sitting on top of the world with over $100 million, absolutely certain, with the weight of every prior success behind that certainty, that I understood how markets moved. What I had forgotten in the glow of that certainty was the most important lesson I ever discovered. The market is always in the process of changing its character. What worked last month may not work this month. What rewarded patience and timing in a trending market will punish that same patience in a choppy, directionless one, and the trader who has been winning consistently is precisely the trader who is least prepared to recognize that shift, because his recent experience has told him the world works a certain way, and the human mind clings to confirmed experience with extraordinary stubbornness. This is why I want you to watch our video on reading market character. It is on the channel, and the link is in the description. In that video, I go into detail about how I learned to distinguish between a market that was ready to reward my methodology and one that was in a transitional phase where the wisest move was to step back entirely. Too many traders ask, "What should I buy?" when the better question is always, "Should I be in this market at all right now?" Those are two completely different questions, and the answer to the second one determines whether the first question even matters. Now let me tell you what 10 winning trades do to position sizing, because this is where the financial damage happens even when the psychological damage has already been done. After sustained success, traders expand their size. This is natural, this is even rational to a point. If your methodology is working, if your read on the market is confirmed, increasing your exposure to capitalize on that edge makes logical sense. I did this myself. There is a version of this that is sound trading practice. But there is another version, the version most traders fall into without realizing it, where size increases not because of a calculated decision based on updated risk parameters, but because of an emotional state, because winning feels good, because you want more of that feeling, because somewhere in your mind the elevated size starts to feel like it belongs to you now, like you have grown into it. And then the trade goes against you. Not catastrophically at first, just a small move in the wrong direction. A normal pullback, perhaps. The kind of thing that 3 months ago, before the winning streak, you would have managed with calm precision, tightening your stop, reducing size, respecting the signal that the trade was not developing as planned. But now you hold, because you are certain, because 10 winning trades have told you that you know how this ends. So you hold, and the position moves further against you, and now you are in the territory where rational thought begins to compete with ego, and ego, fed by 10 consecutive victories, almost always wins that argument. I want to be honest with you about something. The version of this story where I tell you I learned this lesson cleanly once and then never repeated the error, that version is not true. I went through this cycle multiple times in my career. I am telling you about it not to confess weakness, but because I believe the most useful thing I can offer you is the unvarnished truth of what actually happens inside a trader's mind. Not the mythology, not the legend. The actual human experience of being right for an extended period and then allowing that rightness to become the seed of a massive, avoidable mistake. If you are finding this honest and you want more of this kind of direct, practical psychological insight, leave a comment below and tell me. Tell me where you are in your trading journey. Tell me if you have experienced this, the 10-trade confidence that turned into a $10,000 lesson. I read those comments. The community on this channel is one of the most serious, most committed groups of traders I have encountered, and your experiences inform what we create here. Comment, engage, and if you have not subscribed yet, do it now, because what I am about to tell you in the final section of this video is, I believe, the most important thing I have ever said about what it actually takes to survive long-term in this business. Here is what nobody tells the trader who has just had 10 winning trades. Here is the truth that exists on the other side of every sustained run of success. The truth that the market will eventually teach you whether you learn it here or learn it in the most painful way possible. The trader you were before the winning streak, the one who was careful, who was methodical, who respected risk with the quiet humility of someone who had not yet been confirmed by consistent success. That trader was closer to the version of yourself you need to become permanently than the trader you are right now, flush with wins and swelling with conviction. This is the great paradox of mastery in this business. The closer you get to genuine competence, the more you must resist the feeling of competence. Because the market does not reward the feeling of mastery. It rewards the behaviors of mastery. And those behaviors, the patience, the discipline, the relentless honesty about what you do not know, are exactly the behaviors that success most aggressively erodes. What I eventually discovered after decades of this, after enough cycles of winning and losing and rebuilding and winning again, is that the only traders who survive long enough to compound real wealth are the ones who find a way to institutionalize their discipline, to make it independent of their emotional state, to build systems and rules that govern their behavior, not because they need them when they are feeling humble and careful, but specifically for the moments when they do not feel like they need them at all. The rules must be strongest precisely when your confidence is highest, because that is when you are most at risk. Let me be specific about what this looks like in practice. After 10 winning trades, I developed a rule for myself, a hard rule, not a guideline, that I would reduce my position size on the 11th trade, not increase it, not because I expected to lose, not because I had lost confidence in my read of the market, but as an act of deliberate counter-psychology, as a way of reminding myself that the market had not changed its nature simply because I had been reading it correctly. As a way of keeping the size of my emotional investment proportionate to reality rather than proportionate to my recent emotional experience. I also developed what I called a cooling period. After any trade that resulted in a loss following a winning streak, regardless of the size of that loss, I would step away entirely for a minimum of 24 hours before re-entering the market. Not to grieve, not to analyze obsessively, but to allow the chemical reality of loss, the cortisol, the adrenaline, the reactive urgency to get it back, to clear from my system. Because the trader who enters the market within hours of a painful loss is not trading with a clear mind. He is trading with a wound. And wounded men make desperate decisions. And desperate decisions in the market are almost always expensive. I want to direct you to 2 resources at this point, and I am asking you to take these seriously. The first is our ebook, Thinking Like Jesse Livermore, Mastering the Market with Discipline, Patience, and Risk. Everything I have discussed in this video, the psychology of winning streaks, the institutionalization of discipline, the relationship between confidence and risk, is explored in depth in that book, with frameworks you can actually apply to your own trading. The link is in the description. If this video has spoken to you, that book will change how you operate in the market. The second resource is the Livermore Journal, a 90-day trading psychology workbook. 90 days of daily exercises designed to build exactly the kind of self-awareness and psychological discipline that separates the traders who survive from the ones who do not. Both links are in the description. These are not optional extras. They are the applied version of everything I am telling you. Also, and I mean this, go back and watch our other videos on this channel, specifically the ones on why most traders overtrade, on how to read a market that is turning, and on the psychology of waiting. Those videos are the architecture beneath this one. This conversation only makes complete sense when you have watched them. The links are in the description. Watch them today, before you open your platform tomorrow. The investment of time will pay dividends that no single trade ever could. Now let me bring this home, because I want to leave you with something that stays with you. The 10 winning trades will come. If you study this business with seriousness and patience, if you build a methodology grounded in reality rather than hope, if you learn to read market conditions rather than impose your will upon them, the 10 winning trades will come. And in that moment, you will feel something extraordinary. You will feel the market confirming your judgment. You will feel the validation of every hour you spent studying, every loss you absorbed and learned from, every moment of patience that paid off. That feeling is real. You will have earned it. But I am asking you, right now, before it happens, while you can still hear this clearly, to make a promise to yourself, not to me, to yourself, a promise that when that moment arrives, you will not let it change who you are in the chair, that you will carry your discipline into your success the same way you carried it through your struggle, that you will remember this conversation and understand that the test was never really about whether you could win. The test, the real test, the one that determines whether this is a career or a cautionary tale, is whether you can win without losing yourself in the winning. The market gives generously to the prepared mind. It takes ruthlessly from the arrogant one, and the distance between those two states of mind is often nothing more than 10 consecutive winning trades and the choice you make on the 11th. Trade with your eyes open. Trade with your rules intact. Trade like someone who respects what they do not yet know, even when everything you do know seems to be working perfectly. That is the only way I know to last. And lasting, staying in the game, compounding over time, surviving the inevitable storms, is ultimately what separates the great traders from everyone else. Now go watch our other videos. Leave a comment below. Tell me which of these lessons hit hardest for you. Your story might be exactly what another trader in this community needs to hear. And share this video with someone who is in the middle of a winning streak right now, because they need to hear this more than anyone. Both ebook links are in the description. Get them, use them, and I will see you in the next video.